When you play a game, whether it be an RPG or adventure game in particular, no matter how that game plays, it's the story that captivates you and leaves that lasting impression, forming great memories for so many gamers throughout the years. One game that many cite as leaving such an impression is Earthbound. This quirky RPG about a boy's journey to defeat an ancient evil set in a modern time has had many other YouTubers review and make tributes to it, talking about the experiences they had with this SNES classic. But why am I bringing this up, you ask? Well, even though I enjoyed Earthbound, it's not the gaming experience that changed my life. That game begins on a cold winter night in Yokosuka, Japan, 1986. When I first saw Shenmue, I was mesmerized by its world-sheer scope of story, gameplay, and interaction. The tale of young Ryo Hazuki seeking revenge for his father's death at the hands of Lan Di, searching for clues and discovering the bigger journey that lied ahead, definitely had me sold. In fact, I remember when my mother and I went to pick up my copy at the local KB Toys. Yeah, I'm old. After showing her just how big it was and all the stuff you could do. Hell, after we came back home, she'd have to check up on me to see if I was still alive because I spent so much time in the game. Because of this, Shenmue became my favorite game of all time. So of course I was excited to hear that the story was going to continue. And then heartbroken to find out that only Europe and Japan were getting it, as America just didn't love the Dreamcast enough to warrant its release here. I was able to play Shenmue 2 on Dreamcast as a friend of mine picked up a PAL copy with a boot disc at REB Games, but for some reason, it didn't feel the same. However, my excitement returned when I discovered that Microsoft was bringing Shenmue 2 to the big green. So I feel it's only proper today that we take a look at Shenmue 2 on original Xbox to see if it's just as good as the first one. In the grand scheme of Shenmue's tale, Part 2 is about chapters 3 to 5 of the story, taking place in Hong Kong and parts of China. Continuing from the first game, Ryo arrives in Hong Kong, continuing his quest for revenge against Lan Di. He begins looking for a martial arts master who may have some information for him when his bag is stolen by a group of thugs. Of course, Ryo finds them and gets his bag back through his method of asking for information and kicking ass. After that, his journey truly begins. Now, I'm going to stop right there, because I really don't want to get more into this story. This is one you don't want to get spoiled on. I can tell you that it gets better from here on out, although me personally, I'm a bit more partial to Part 1's story. But 2 is just as good with that stranger in a strange land vibe that's pretty captivating. Shenmue 2 can best be described as an action-adventure with light RPG elements set in an open world. Like in the first game, you explore the area and look for clues on where you need to go next, mostly by examining objects and talking to NPCs for info. Of course, you could just explore and do whatever you want, leaving the story for later. But don't take too long, because just like Part 1, you'll get the bad ending if you wait too many in-game months. There isn't as much of this aspect in this sequel, maybe due to fan feedback, but even though you're basically searching for info the same way like you did back in Yokosuka, here it's not as memorable. Talking with people around Ryo's hometown, watching their daily routines and learning about their backstories gave Shenmue its charm, at least in my opinion. Here, it's more of a means to an end to find info on where to go. Yeah, Ryo is in a new country and wouldn't know anybody here, but still it would have been nice to have a little story on some of the NPCs that you do meet. On a side note, I totally miss Tomato Mart. I mean, yeah, there is one in Hong Kong, but all you can really do there is talk to the cashier, who's also a student from Japan, and I believe unlocks some kind of side story. I mean, now I have nowhere to buy my cassette tapes. Oh, wait, that's not in Shenmue 2 either. Okay, I guess I better move on then. Making a welcome return from Chapter 1 are the variety of minigames that you can partake in. Most of them back from Yakuza like darts, QTE machines, and arcade ports of Space Harrier and Outrun, with new additions like arm wrestling, slots, afterburner, and Lucky Hit. Of course, to enjoy any of these things, as well as buy move scrolls and captcha toys, you're gonna need money, and thankfully there are a few ways to make some cash. You can sell the collectibles that you obtain throughout the game, like said capsule toys and Zippo lighters, at pawn shops. Or you could get a job by running a Lucky Hit stand or working at the docks moving boxes. These are fun in their own way, but man, nothing beats driving a forklift.
It's really fun.
There's also gambling in a variety of games such as street fights, dice and ball games, and the aforementioned Lucky Hit and arm wrestling. As for combat, not much has changed from its predecessor. It still plays similar to Virtual Fighter, fighting opponents using moves you learn from scrolls or martial arts masters, and leveling them up as you use them regularly. But you know what? It's still simple and fun to play, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Which, overall, is what Shenmue 2 goes for. Unfortunately, that mentality also goes for the controls, as they're still kinda set with a Dreamcast controller in mind. You can alleviate the pain of moving with a D-pad by setting walking to the analog stick, but even then it still feels a bit clunky. Overall, the controls just haven't aged well, but not enough to completely give up on the game. My advice? Just stick with it, it gets better. Shenmue 2 looks great, even if it's a bit aged. The cities and surrounding areas that Dio explores is stunning and shows that Yu Suzuki and his team went to great lengths to recreate Hong Kong in digital form. 1980s Hong Kong even. As for the characters, for the most part they're very well detailed, but sometimes it feels odd when they just stare at you.
Prolonged eye contact. 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 Prolonged eye contact.
For audio,
Prolonged eye contact. Prolonged eye contact.
Yeah, I got it. For audio, the music is amazing with an epic score that sets not only the tone of the game, but its characters as well, like Joy for instance. Being a tough biker chick, her music is always rock-based.
Hey, you! I heard that you aren't staying at that guest house.
No.
Where are you sleeping? Don't tell me you have a room at the Grand Hotel.
The Grand Hotel?
It's the expensive hotel in the Golden Quarter. It's not the kind of place I'd imagine you'd be staying at. The come-over guest house suits you best.
Voice acting is another story. While Corey Burton returns to voice Dio and, again, does a great job, the rest of the cast is just...
Welcome to Hong Kong. Looking for fun? Do you need a guide?
Are you a lone boy? You need a place to stay?
Need a tour? It'll be cheap.
Too bad, fella. Thanks for the money.
It's okay. I know the rules. Yeah, I know it all.
Yeah.
Do you want to play then?
So that's Shenmue 2, and I have to say that this one, along with the original, might not be for everybody. However, if you're looking for a unique gaming experience with a great story, it's definitely worth trying. Now, if you want to play the first one and you don't really feel like hunting down a Dreamcast, as they've gotten pretty pricey over the years, Shenmue 2 does come with a DVD of the theatrical Japanese release of Shenmue the movie, which is basically all the cutscenes and some gameplay cobbled together as a movie, which is kind of interesting. Or, if you'd rather play this wonderful tale than its predecessor in glorious HD, the long-awaited remaster of Shenmue 1 and 2 is finally coming out to modern consoles and PC, so that might be the best way to go if you're not feeling too nostalgic. I'm guessing it has to do with the fact that after so many years of waiting and amazing support from the fans, Shenmue 3 is finally coming out, thanks to an immensely successful Kickstarter campaign. It's still hard to believe that after so long, Dio's story might finally come to an end. Or a new beginning, depending on how sales go. Overall, the Shenmue games are just an amazing series, and for me, my favorite gaming experience, for the games themselves, and for the fact that it's one of the few memories I have of my mom that was really good. And for that, I'll always be thankful. I'll never forget it. But for now, this is the Dolly Podcast saying, enjoy the games and the memories. See you next time.